Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line, he is from Cinemablend.com. That is Cinemablend.com, everybody. His name is Mike Reyes. What's going on, Mike?
Not much. Are you trying to make sure people don't think it's Cinemablend? Because honestly, I keep telling people that we should have a coffee called Cinnamon Blend.
That's actually not a horrible idea, but I will say when we first started doing this, cinema was not a word I used a lot. And typing it out was always like, oh, God, am I getting it right? Now it's easy, but, it's one of those ones you type it, and it's like, it doesn't look right.
B-sox, you did not know cinema until I came into your life. I have broadened your horizons like a bird.
You sound like the wizard from Hello from the Magic Tavern.
I don't think I've ever listened to that.
It's a podcast, which
I was going to say, I think it's a podcast.
Yeah, it's a podcast, and it's... I believe the guy's name is Usador the Wizard, and there's Chunt and anything. Anyways, it's a guy that fell through a portal, and he's still getting a weak Wi-Fi signal from the Burger King. It's a really great podcast, so.
I'm going to have to try this. I like that, just how this sounds already.
Not that I'm saying, go away from ours, but, anyways.
No. You know what? That's a listen to after you get the business done.
Yes. Absolutely.
We're business.
Anyways, okay, we're straying from the point here. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joins me every week to talk about movies. Let's start with the big one this week. Jurassic World Dominion is finally out and about and crushing cars and doing stuffs and with dinosaurs. And what'd you think?
Oh, I loved it. Oh, I had so much fun with this. And it's definitely... It is very interesting to see the critical reaction and some of the fan reaction and how things vastly differ between certain audiences.
Okay, that's it. See, I've had I've seen a couple of them, and most of it was this is better than the first two.
I don't know if I would say that. I might put it on par with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. But the thing is, I really like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I really loved Jurassic World, and Dominion just slides in there very nicely as another thing that I just enjoy so damn much.
There you go. So what'd you like about it? What's going on here?
Well, basically, Jurassic World Dominion is the continuation of the Jurassic World saga, where several years after the events of Fallen Kingdom, dinosaurs are they're roaming the earth. And a lot of things are happening, and people are going to have to move out of the way or they will die. So this is the crossover between legacy actors like Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum.
Yep.
And, the newer cast like Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. But then there's also other new additions that come into the mix, like DeWanda Wise's character, Kayla Watt. And, in fact, she is probably the breakout star of this movie, because on top of just giving us so much Jurassic history tied in a nice little bow, there's also new expansions that sort of hint at where things could go in the future.
Okay.
And she's certainly one of them. I got to not only see the movie, but I did a couple interviews for it. And as a kid who grew up just obsessed with Jurassic Park and the movies that would follow, even the not-so-good ones, to see Dominion sort of tie an era of history together but not close the door on everything is wonderful.
I always thought the Jurassic movies, whether it was Park or World, like the sequels may not have been as good as some of the other movies, but they didn't feel like they didn't fit in the universe.
You're never going to get another Jurassic Park. That was everything that went into that movie was lightning in a bottle, and that is like a gold standard of blockbuster of science fiction. That's something that you very ever rarely reach. And if you could get there again, we would have gotten there.
Yeah.
That said, the only sequel that I'm actively not as in love with is Jurassic Park 3. But even then, Sam Neill still shows up as Dr. Grant, and from what little I know of the stress that went on behind the scenes of that movie, it turned out better than one would have expected. And it's there's a whole bunch of interviews from special features, and there's even a book, Jurassic Park: The Ultimate Visual History, that go into greater depth. But from what I remember, months before they're supposed to start shooting, they have a release date in play. They throw out the script for Jurassic Park 3 and start all over again. So they partially pulled an Alien 3 where, considering what it could have been after what happened, the movie that arrived is much better than it could have. It should have been. Although I still love Alien 3.
But that's a completely different subject for some other time because I like that movie too, as weird as that sounds. But like I said, I mean, it doesn't feel like that movie's out of place in the Jurassic universe is kind of what I'm leaning towards, you know? Like if you...
No, absolutely.
So anyways, okay, so Jurassic World Dominion is really good. Go see it on IMAX this weekend, right? Or 3D or whatever you want.
However you see it. Just go see it. See it as big and loud. And I remember saying that for Fallen Kingdom, and that actually got me in the commercials. It's like, see it as big and loud as you can. It's a dinosaur creature feature. It is something that is meant to be a summer blockbuster, and it is so much fun while doing that.
Perfect. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. Next movie up is Hustle, the Adam Sandler one, which it was funny when we were getting ready talking about when we were going to record and stuff, because we are recording on a Thursday this week. You were like, we might have to do this on Friday because I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it. But you watched it today, right?
Yes, I did. I made sure to watch it in between. Actually, I got up early this morning to watch it.
All right. So how is it?
It's really good. Honestly, I really enjoy this phase of Adam Sandler's career we're in right now, because I know I've given the man a whole bunch of crap in the past, and maybe it's just me getting older, learning the business more, or maybe it's just because the work he's been doing right now is so good. I mean, even Hubie Halloween is like potential comfort. It's potential comfort food that you just sit and enjoy, and it's like, yeah, it's another Sandler palling around with his friends movie, but that time it worked because of the sheer fact that it really was the type of movie where it's like, we're not trying to just get a vacation out of this. We are really trying to just... But anyway.
I want to talk more about the Adam Sandler thing here in a second, because I think you're onto something there. But going back to the movie Hustle, what is it? It's a sports movie. That's kind of all. It's about basketball, right?
Yeah. Adam Sandler plays a guy who works for the Philadelphia 76ers, which is an added element of this movie that I enjoyed, because even though I'm not that big of a sports person, this is definitely a Philly movie. And having been out to Philly so much for my career, there's one part where he's having a very emotional moment, and he's in a car, and it's parked in this parking lot underneath a highway. And I'm looking at this and thinking, wait a minute, I think I know where this is. And then as I'm zooming out, I saw another piece of the scenery, and it's like, oh wait, I know exactly where that is. It was in the parking lot of a theater that's now closed, the UA Riverwalk.
Oh, cool.
It was the theater that I, especially towards the beginning of my career, was very important to screenings that I would go to. And it sadly closed during the pandemic. But just seeing that parking lot again, it was like, wow, I have an added sort of texture to this movie. But even with that aside, Adam Sandler plays someone who works for the 76ers. I think he's an assistant coach. He's a talent scout, but he, wants to be assistant coach, really wants to work wants to be on the bench.
Yeah.
And really wants to work the game. He's an ex-ball player himself. And he's trying to find the next big thing. And he finds this guy in Spain that he basically fights tooth and nail for him to get that big shot. It's basically, what if Rocky was about Mickey training Rocky? Like, what if it was like, Mickey is the main character, and you're watching Mickey push Rocky, and you're following Mickey's story with Rocky sort of on the side, but it's that sort of underdog story. I do not mean that as a knock. I mean that as, that sometimes if you can find a shorthand like that to sell people on a movie, that's what you got to do. This is definitely one of those underdog movies. And Adam Sandler is in a groove right now where him playing this mentor character was just really, it sat really well with me, and he does it so well.
Oh, that's awesome. Is this based on a true story?
I don't think it is. I think this is sort of one of those things where, it's probably a story that's happened that you could tell so many times on that angle, but it's a fictional story that uses maybe real life as like a jumping off point.
Because what was that movie with Brendan Fraser? Was it The Rookie or something?
The Scout?
Yeah, I think
the
it was.
one with Albert Brooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that movie. Well, cool. No, I'm looking forward to Hustle. That looks... good basketball movies are they're either really good or not. is kind of what it comes down to.
Good sports movies, you can say the same thing. And this is the thing I love, and that I've sort of finally realized about sports movies and why some of them are so easy to make into movies. Sports, when you choreograph it the right way, unless you're doing something fantastical, you have the choreography sort of locked.
Yeah.
Like, there's only so far you can go with a sport unless you're pulling something like Air Bud or Space Jam or like something unrealistic. But when you're doing like grounded sports, the choreography is something that's easy. That's like less of a concern, and you can focus a little more on the story because it's very easy to just turn that sport into something cinematically beautiful.
Yeah. No, I agree. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me. Real quick, going back to the Adam Sandler stuff, just a question about him, because you were kind of leading into what I kind of think the answer to this might be. But if he would have done more serious stuff without his friends early on in his career, would he be a more well-respected actor?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because he would have had a larger resume backing that potential up. But no, because the stuff that he has done has stuck so well with people that it doesn't leave. Like Uncut, still have people talking about Punch Drunk Love. I personally will still talk about Reign Over Me. And Uncut Gems is, of course, something that everybody continues to talk about.
Yeah.
So I think he would be more respected in the sense that he would have more quantity on his resume, but he's got quite a bit of quality that people still just, the stuff that hits.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me to talk about movies. All right, that wraps up Hustle. We started to talk about it last week, or maybe the week before or sometime, but Bob's Burgers you finally saw, yay or nay?
Yay. Very yay. You don't have to watch the show in order to see the movie, but if you know the show, then it just enhances your enjoyment very well. So you could even show this to newcomers, and they would be able to latch onto the series after this. And yeah, it's not, you see, the thing with TV movies, especially when you go back and look at the Simpsons movie, if you do too much of an upgrade to the animation, or if you widen the story too much, it kind of sticks out when compared to the actual show itself. So like if you're going to go on a Simpsons binge right now, and then you get to the point where the Simpsons movie slides in, it sticks out.
Unhuman is next up. What's going on here? Blumhouse, right?
Unhuman is...
Blumhouse?
Yes, Blumhouse. This is another Blumhouse Epics movie like Torn Hearts, which came out a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Unhuman came out last week, and I forgot to mention it, and I'm sad that I did, because this was another one of those wonderful surprises that landed into my lap because of doing Overdue rentals. And we got the director, Marcus Dunstan, to be on the show with us. So that meant I got to watch the movie. And this is... reading his director's statement, he wanted to make a movie that crossed John Hughes and Stephen King. And he definitely did, along with his co-writer and collaborator, Patrick Dunstan. Oh, no, Patrick Melton. Yeah, Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton. So basically, the story is a whole bunch of high school kids are on a field trip, and they stumble into a zombie apocalypse. And they learn some stuff along the way.
You don't want to give away too much here, right?
Oh no, that's like, I know that's not exactly a sexy way of selling this movie, but I want people to go in as cold as possible.
Okay.
And this is just a lot of fun. I basically described it on the podcast as 28 Heathers Later, because it has that biting high school wit from 80s movies, but it manages to scale it to the children of today.
Oh, perfect.
And it's also just a really fun horror movie, and I think it's like about an hour and a half indie horror movie that you can currently rent on VOD that is just well worth your time.
All right, we'll do that. Unhuman out now. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me. All right, over in the world of movie news, where do you want to start? Because nothing's like giant, like crazy awesome. Like we got a couple new trailers. We want to hit on Stranger Things, obviously. Ghostbusters has a little bit of a story. Like I said, nothing really crazy, but just stuff happening, right?
Yeah, we've got some trailers that came out this week.
Is that where you want to start?
Adam was one of them. Yeah, we'll start with Black Adam. It looks okay. I don't think we haven't seen a lot really, and it's not like it's the first stuff that it's not like it's the first footage that we've actually seen from the movie.
Yeah.
But it looks interesting. I like that we got more of a look on Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate.
Yeah. You know what I struggle with, and I'm pretty sure Black Adam's a villain, right?
He's an anti-hero. I could have sworn he was a villain, but then, The Rock comes out and says anti-hero.
And that's my problem with this
because,
stuff.
He doesn't want to be the total heel. He doesn't want to be, the bad guy. I think he wants to show off badass and do like out of the box stuff, but ultimately he'll be a hero for it.
And that's my issue with it, I guess. Like I'll probably go see it and it'll probably be good and all this, but I get tired of everybody having to like make villains heroes or make them not as bad as they're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Dr. Octavius is a good one in recent memory.
Well, see, Doc Ock was someone that they did it the right way. I think they built that story the right way, especially with Alvin Molina playing the character.
And again, I didn't hate that, but it's like Doc Ock's a bad guy. I don't know. Anyways, all right, so Black Adam trailer came out. We got a first look at the Munsters. I don't know what to think of this because Rob Zombie's stuff, he makes good music. His movies are hit or miss for me.
Yeah, they're definitely hit or miss, but the thing is, I still like when the dude shows up. I don't have to like it totally. I watched the first Halloween, and I was never like a huge Halloween fan to begin with, so I was like, okay with it. Lords of Salem is something that was very interesting. House of 1,000 Corpses, and I love Devil's Reject, but it's definitely, the dude has multitudes, and it doesn't always work with people, but you can't deny that he doesn't do his homework, and he doesn't show up, and that's what I love. That's what I have loved ever since he got the Munsters. Like, the moment he announced he was doing it, I was excited because it was clear how much he is a Munsters fan. And then everybody was probably thinking, oh, he's going to do like he did with Halloween. It's going to be more obscene, and it's going to be, off base. And it's like, whoa. If you knew how much you love the Munsters, you'd know that he's a fanboy, and he's not going to do that. So if anybody had any doubt remaining, this trailer officially killed it because he redoes the opening and then throws in this really fun gag about the movie being in color at the end. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
It's one of those ones where it's like, I'm probably going to trust you with this of all people. But I've still got questions. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he's going to, start having them talk about whores and MF this and MF that. And
you never know.
At the same time, I'm sure he'll throw in his own twist, but the thing is, I trust him because this has to be one of those moments where, like, if you're a huge Star Wars fan and you get the gig to do it,
yeah.
Like if you get the keys handed to the kingdom, that's something that you like cherish. Like the right person cherishes that and knows what to do with it and goes back to the lore and starts re-examining everything. I think that's what this is going to be for him.
You know what my favorite Rob Zombie movie is that he directed?
What?
The Haunted World of Super El Beasto.
I thought you were going to say that, and I never finished it, and it wasn't because of lack of wanting, but I will tell you this much. That is some fun
Oh,
and I love like the Easter eggs he throws into his own movies and songs and everything, and just it is.
Oh, God.
That is probably the most out there thing he's ever done.
It is so funny, and we'll talk a little bit more about this off air because there's a lot to get into there. But if
we really can't talk about this on air because, folks, it is.
I'm trying to keep it moving.
In the most beautiful ways possible.
Oh God, there's one of the songs. There's some lyrics in it that it makes me laugh in the best way possible because it's so funny. But Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. Let's wrap up with
I'll tell you this much. I still wish he.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. One last Rob Zombie note. I really wish he made Werewolf Women of the SS into a movie.
That would have been awesome.
Because that trailer was awesome. Nick Cage was awesome in it. I wanted that to happen so bad.
Oh, that's great. We'll wrap up with the Stranger Things and maybe a little Obi Wan, but real quick, Ghostbusters had some news. Looks like the code name, at least for the new sequel, is going to be Firehouse, and apparently they're going to do a Spengler animated series, family show, or something on Netflix?
Yeah, there was an event last night. I think it was in California, but there was an event where they basically had to celebrate Ghostbusters Day, because yesterday was the release anniversary of the first Ghostbusters movie.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening was they announced the code name for the Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel, which is Firehouse. And they explained that because at the very end of Afterlife, we see the Ecto-1 go back into the original Firehouse with Winston looking to reopen things. That's where the next story is going to start. And then I didn't hear so much about a Netflix show, but I heard that it was happening, and it's an animated series that's in universe.
I always thought in this we've talked about it before, but it was one of the ideas, especially when the Melissa McCarthy Ghostbusters came out, that there was an idea of doing an offshoot of the Ghostbusters world, but it's franchises. And I still think that would be I still think that would be a great idea for a movie.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. And I would love if there was some sort of way that they could tie the two universes together, because I still love the Paul Feig Ghostbusters movie. I thought it was a lot, considering I was someone that when I saw those trailers, I was like, do you really need to do this? And then I came out really enjoying it. It's wow, first of all, those trailers did not sell this movie nearly well enough. And second of all, the only problem I had was when they consistently sort of referenced moments. It's no, be your own thing because you're doing so well at that.
I think that was a big issue for it. Because it was okay, are you a remake or not of this? And are you making fun of the original one or not?
I think it knew it wasn't a remake. It knew it wasn't making fun of things. But just the nods felt a little too shoehorned in. It's okay, we need to put this in for the original fans. Meanwhile, the original fans are probably the people that you were least likely going to win over by doing that.
Yeah.
It was just doing so well being its own thing. And except for Sigourney Weaver's cameo at the end, and Ernie Hudson's, I thought the other Ghostbuster cameos were kind of forced.
Yeah, they were awful. So, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. Let's wrap up with Stranger Things. You finally watched it all the way through. We've got 2 episodes left. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. We've got 2 movies left before we run out of episodes.
Too long at this point. We all right. So, Stranger Things, it feels like it's become the new Game of Thrones. And I say this in respect that it feels like they're going over with the episodes, they're being given the blank check at this point. They know they're heading towards the end. The fandom is still very much revved up for it, so they're letting them go excessive. These episodes are over an hour.
Yeah.
Whereas you could very easily fit several episodes into a binge session. You can only do 2 or 3 a night if you really want to safely. And then keep in mind, this is only part 1. Part 2 is going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours, 19 minutes long an episode.
That's rough. I'll tell you this.
Movies. Release them as movies.
Yeah, the Stranger Things movie.
That'd be them interesting.
That was the problem with the first 3 especially the first 3 episodes for me, was I didn't care about anything that was happening. And I should say this. I cared about what was going on with Hopper because that was the most interesting part, and they weren't showing anything about it. It would be 2 seconds an episode.
Yeah, this.
It's you know what?
Just another thing that happened with they spread everybody out so thin that you've got 11 and 11 and the Byers are in California, and then you've got the kids in Hawkins, and then you've got Hopper in Russia, and oh dear, all of this is surely going to wrap up together later, isn't it? And obviously that's, without any spoilers, you're going to have to wait until the next 3 episodes because clearly that's the last part of the season. But the way that they split this story, I think, is so unnatural that you should have just split it at the halfway point of the series, or maybe split a couple more episodes into the second half because it just feels so weird.
I forget which
certain antics and. Oh, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, the first time I actually cared about what was going on in an episode was when they finally started to explore that house. And again, spoilers here. When the guy got to the fight on the airplane, I thought that was hilarious.
The fight on the airplane, Murray is still one of my favorite characters on this show. Murray, Erica, Lucas's sister,
Mary.
also continues to shine. I still like Dustin, even though I think that I'm still not convinced the Susie character needs to be here or has been written in well enough. And then as far, Robin and Steve are very well played. And even Nancy is, I think, one of the most improved characters of this season.
Yeah.
And then Argyle is a great new addition. Eddie is a great new addition. Eddie and Argyle, from moment one, I knew I was going to like these guys, and I have not been disappointed. I hope that does not change.
You ever get see the thing with, like, hear about it with kids where it's like they're cute when they're, young, and then, like, teenage years, they're just, nobody likes them, and then they hit, like, their early adulthood, and it's like, oh, I like you again. This is where I'm at. I'm like, I don't care about anything you're doing here.
It's just, it has continued to be a nostalgia-rama, crib as many references as you can season, to the point where the episode after you have Robert Englund guest starring, they name check A Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger. It's like, wow, it took you 5 episodes to do this, when in the first episode you basically ripped off the first kill that Freddy makes in the damn movie, right to the point where, oh, this guy did it. How could he have possibly done it? She wound up on the ceiling. And then there's just so, like, it cribs so much from these other movies and experiences that it means nothing. It is just an exercise in hollow nostalgia. And I get that people are probably criticizing Jurassic World Dominion for the same thing. People have criticized bits of Star Wars for the same thing. And I get that we all have different thresholds. But I just have no threshold for this anymore. I'm watching it because I'm professionally trying to keep up with everything so I can write about it. And also, I want to see where it goes at this point, because it's like I'm daring it to improve. I'm daring it to have an original thought or idea.
I just want a show based on Dustin and Steve and maybe Hopper.
I would love that. Do a show based on the Hellfire Club where it's just they're imagining all this crazy stuff they're doing in the game.
Yeah.
And, like, there you go. There's your horror, because you know what? That would have more horror in it than this season has. Because for a show that built itself as like this creepy 80s horror Stranger Things show, there's a huge chunk of one of the episodes here that feels like a damn 80s kid comedy, where, like, you got to the point where they visited Susie, right?
Which one's Susie?
Dustin's girlfriend, the hacker.
No, we have not gotten. That's the next episode we're on.
All right, so there is a huge chunk of this episode that feels like a damn 80s kids movie that should have just been left on VHS and forgotten. And a big piece of this episode just lingers on it and repeats the gags again. And it's like, look at this huge family with quirky kids. And it's like, stop. Just focus on what you're trying to do. Shave 20 minutes off of each of these episodes. Release the whole season in one and just get it on. Get it over with. You are almost done. Stop lingering. And now they're talking about possibly going to a weekly model for the last season.
Awesome. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.
No, not awesome.
No, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me. Have you watched Obi Wan at all?
I have not seen the latest episode.
Okay.
I've watched the first 3. I just haven't watched the recent because this Wednesday release schedule, it's interesting. I like that it gives people a chance to catch up before the end of the week. But at the same time, it's like, I had to go to the city this week, and it was on Wednesday that I had to go to get some things done. And I didn't have time to throw that on in the morning.
There was...
unless I have time to throw it on in the morning, I can't throw it on in the morning because I wait for my wife because it was funny. The day that Obi Wan started, she saw that I was watching it. And then when she gets to work, she messages me, I'm a little upset that you started without me. I was like, you didn't tell me you were interested. And she's like, I'm only really teasing you. But still, I thought we were going to watch this together. So now we're watching it together.
Of all the criticism, this week's episode got the most. I'm going to say I didn't hate it, but I'll tell you this. It was a missed opportunity on a couple levels. I think that it could have been something really, really, really fucking cool, and they missed out. So I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to spoil it for you. So.
That's like the log line for 90% of Star Wars that's come out since The Last Jedi.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. All right, dude, that'll wrap it up for this week. Happy movie watching for the rest of the week or whatever you got doing. I don't know what you do on the weekend, but you have a good one, okay?
You as well. Everybody come back next week because we're going to finally get to talk about Lightyear. And don't forget that Star Wars The Last Jedi is great.